All right, so you know that sound, right? That pop, pop, P-O-P. It's pretty much the official sound of a movie night. I mean, is there anything that says movie's about to start more than that?
I know, right? It's funny how such a simple sound can get us so excited.
Totally. But have you ever stopped to think about what's actually going on inside those tiny kernels as they transform into fluffy popcorn?
It's pretty remarkable when you think about the science behind it. We take this snack for granted, but there's a whole symphony of heat pressure and moisture happening in each little kernel.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
What are the key ingredients in this popcorn magic show?
Well, you need heat, obviously. That's what gets
No.
the whole process going. Then there's pressure, which builds up inside the kernel. And of course, you need moisture because without water, there's no steam and no pop.
A pressure cooker. That sounds a little intense for a tiny kernel.
It is. It's like each kernel is a mini pressure cooker just waiting to erupt. So inside the kernel, you've got this tough outer shell called the pericarp. It's like a little fortress. And inside that fortress is a reservoir of, well, water.
So we've got our miniature fortress with a water supply. What happens next?
Well, as the kernel heats up, that water turns into steam. And since it's trapped inside that tough shell, the pressure starts to build.
Ah, so it's like a tiny steam engine building up power until it can't hold it anymore.
Exactly. And eventually the pressure gets so high that the pericarp can't take it anymore. It bursts open, releasing all that pent-up steam, and boom, you've got popcorn.
That's the pop we hear.
That's it. And as that happens, the starchy inside of the kernel explodes outward. And as it cools down, it solidifies, creating that fluffy, irregular popcorn shape we all know and love.
It's like a tiny little food volcano.
I like that analogy. It's a perfect way to picture it. So you've got that rapid expansion from the steam, and then as it hits the cooler air, it suddenly solidifies, giving popcorn that unique texture.
You know what's funny? Popcorn made on the stovetop always seems to have a different texture than the popcorn you get at the movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Movie theater popcorn is usually lighter and fluffier.
So what's their secret?
Part of it is the type of popcorn they use, but it also has to do with the popping method. Movie theaters often use something called pressure popping.
Pressure popping. That sounds even more intense than the regular kind.
It is. They basically pop the kernels in a sealed chamber so the pressure can build up even more. And then when they release the chamber, all that pressure is released at once, causing a massive simultaneous pop.
Wow. So it's like shaking up a soda and then opening it.
Exactly. That's a great way to think about it. And because of that intense pressure, you get a more even popping and fewer of those annoying unpopped kernels.
Speaking of unpopped kernels, why do some kernels just refuse to pop? Are they like popcorn duds?
They're not exactly duds. It all comes down to moisture. Remember how we said moisture is crucial? Well, if a kernel doesn't have enough moisture, usually around 14%, it won't have enough steam power to burst open.
It was like trying to inflate a balloon without enough air. It just sits there all sad and deflated.
Exactly. And without that steam pressure, the kernel just kind of dries out instead of popping.
Okay, so that explains the duds. But what about the popcorn kernels? They go flying out of the pot. It's like they're little popcorn acrobats.
Aha! It's not acrobatics. It's all about physics. When that kernel explodes, it releases a burst of steam, and that steam propels the kernel upwards.
Like a tiny rocket.
Exactly. It's basically a mini explosion launching the popcorn into the air.
This is so cool. I never realized there was so much science behind popcorn.
Me neither. And speaking of science, do you know that not all corn can pop?
Really? What makes popcorn kernels so special?
It's that tough outer shell we talked about, the pericarp. Popcorn kernels have a really strong moisture-sealed pericarp. Other types of corn just don't have that.
Ah, so their outer layer isn't strong enough to hold in all that steam pressure.
Exactly. They might dry out or burn, but they won't pop.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like trying to make popcorn in a colander, right?
That's a great analogy. You need that sealed environment to build up pressure.
Okay, so we've covered the science of popping, but what about the history of popcorn? It feels like it's been around forever.
Well, you're not wrong. Popcorn has a history that goes back thousands of years.
Seriously, way before movie theaters even existed.
Oh, yeah. Archaeologists have found fossilized popcorn kernels that are over 7,000 years old.
Wow, so popcorn was a snack even back then?
It was. They've found evidence of popcorn consumption in Peru dating back that far. It seems it was part of ancient diets in the Americas.
So popcorn is like a culinary time traveler.
I love that. And it wasn't just a food source either. In some Native American cultures, popcorn had spiritual significance.
Really? What kind of spiritual significance?
Well, they used it in ceremonies and for divination. They even used it for decoration.
So popcorn was like a multi-purpose tool.
You could say that. It was a symbol of abundance and prosperity.
That's so interesting. So how did popcorn go from ancient rituals to becoming the movie theater staple we know and love today?
That's a great question. And it's a journey that spans centuries and continents. So before the break, we were just starting to talk about how popcorn went from ancient times to being, so popular today.
It's really amazing to think about, how it went from like ancient ceremonies to being everywhere around the world.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It really shows how much people love it.
Yeah.
So once popcorn was introduced to Europe in the 15th century by Christopher Columbus, it was just a matter of time until it spread everywhere else.
Wow. So popcorn went from ancient ceremonies to sailing across the ocean. That's a long journey.
It is. And as it traveled, different cultures, they all kind of put their own spin on it. It's pretty cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Food is such a great way to learn about different cultures.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways different cultures have changed popcorn?
Oh, there are so many examples. In India, for example, they have this thing called masala popcorn, where they toss the popcorn with all these amazing spices. It's super popular as a street food.
Spice popcorn. That sounds so good. It's like a
Mhm.
flavor explosion.
It is. And then you have Indonesia, where they make this sweet treat called jipang. It's basically popcorn mixed with sugar, and then they form it into all these cool shapes, like balls and squares.
So it's like popcorn candy.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty amazing what you can do with popcorn. And in Brazil, they have pipoca doce, which is sweet popcorn made with sugar, condensed milk, and often sprinkled with nuts.
Wow. It sounds like every culture has its own special way of making popcorn.
They do. It
Yeah.
really is a global food. And I think it's because popcorn is so simple. You can add just about anything to it, and it's delicious.
Okay, but we can't talk about popcorn without talking about movie theaters.
Right?
It's like they were made for each other.
I know, right? The smell of popcorn is practically synonymous with movie theaters. It's like the moment you smell it, you know you're in for a good time.
Totally. It's that warm, buttery smell. It's like a signal that says, get ready for a movie.
And there's just something so satisfying about munching on popcorn in a dark theater. It's like it completes the whole experience.
I wonder how popcorn and movies became so connected. It seems like they were always meant to be together.
Well, there are a few theories about that. One theory is that it started during the Great Depression. Popcorn was a really affordable treat back then, and movie theaters started selling it to, boost their profits and attract more customers.
So popcorn was like a little luxury that people could still afford during hard times.
Exactly. It made going to the movies more accessible, and it helped movie theaters stay in business. So it was a win-win.
That's really interesting. There's another theory too, right?
Yeah, there's another theory that popcorn was popular because it was relatively quiet, unlike other snacks, so it didn't disturb people during silent film.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No one wants to hear a bag of chips crunching during a quiet moment in a movie.
Exactly. Popcorn let people enjoy a snack without ruining the movie experience. And by the time sound films came around, popcorn was already the go-to movie snack.
It's amazing how popcorn went from being a simple food to a cultural icon.
It really is. It just goes to show how much we love it. And you know what's really cool about popcorn? It's actually pretty healthy.
Why, really? I always thought of popcorn as a bit of a guilty pleasure.
I think a lot of people do. But air-popped popcorn is a whole grain, which means it's packed with fiber.
Oh, so it's the butter and all the toppings that make it unhealthy?
Exactly. If you load it up with butter and salt and sugary stuff, then yeah, it becomes less healthy.
Yeah.
But plain popcorn is actually really good for you. It's got fiber, antioxidants, and even some essential minerals.
Wow. So popcorn could be a healthy snack. This is a game changer.
It is. Just make sure you're eating it plain or with healthy toppings. And speaking of healthy options, let's talk about the different ways to popcorn.
Okay, yeah. We've talked about air popping and pressure popping, but there's also the good old stovetop method. Is there a healthiest way to pop?
All three methods are pretty healthy as long as you use a healthy oil for the stovetop method. Coconut oil is a good choice because it can withstand high heat.
Good to know. I'd try that next time I make stovetop popcorn.
Yeah.
But what about microwave popcorn? It's so convenient, but I always wonder about those bags.
Microwave popcorn is definitely convenient, but those bags often have a lot of extra stuff in them, like artificial flavors and preservatives. And some of those chemicals in the bag can actually leach into the popcorn when it's heated.
Yikes. So it's best to stick with air popping, pressure popping, or the stovetop method if you want to avoid all that extra stuff.
Pretty much. It's always good to be mindful of what you're eating.
My mind is blown. I had no idea there was so much to learn about popcorn.
That's the fun part about these deep dives, right? You learn so many cool things about everyday things.
Okay, so we've covered the science, the nutrition, the history, the global flavors. Now what? I feel like there's still more to uncover.
You're right, we've talked about all the technical stuff, but there's another side to popcorn, a more social and emotional side. You know what I mean?
Interesting. So
Ah,
popcorn has a story that goes beyond just being a food.
absolutely. It's played a big role in our culture and in our lives. It's more than just a snack, it's a symbol.
I'm intrigued. So where do we go from here?
Well, let's explore the social and emotional side of popcorn. It's a fascinating journey that will take us from ancient rituals to modern day movie nights.
Okay, so we've talked about the science, the history, the different ways people around the world enjoy popcorn, and now you're saying there's even more to this little kernel.
You know, it really is amazing how popcorn has managed to become so much more than just a food. It's woven itself into our culture, our traditions, our emotions. It's a symbol, a shared experience, a source of comfort and joy.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about this emotional side of popcorn.
Well, think about it. When do we usually eat popcorn? It's often at social gatherings, right? Movie nights with friends, family game nights, parties, sporting events. Popcorn is almost always there, bringing people together.
Yeah, you're right. It's like the official snack of having fun with other people.
I know. And it's not just about being present at those gatherings, it actually enhances them. You know, that feeling of anticipation when you're waiting for that first bite, and then that satisfying crunch.
Hmm.
And how popcorn just makes you want to share and laugh and connect with everyone around you. It all adds to the experience.
It's like popcorn itself becomes a part of the memory. The taste and smell can take you right back to a specific moment.
Exactly. And this connection between popcorn and shared experiences isn't new either. Remember how we talked about popcorn being a part of ancient rituals and ceremonies? That sense of togetherness and communal enjoyment has been associated with popcorn for centuries.
It's pretty amazing how a simple snack can have such a powerful social impact. It makes you wonder if there's something like deep down inside us that makes us connect with popcorn in this way.
There might be. Some researchers believe that sharing food, especially something like popcorn, has evolutionary roots. You know, it's a way of building trust and strengthening bonds. It's like a primal instinct to come together and share a meal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sharing food is a sign of hospitality and friendship in almost every culture.
Right. And popcorn, with its playful nature and how easy it is to share, it just seems perfectly made for that purpose. It's not a formal food, it's fun, it's casual, and it encourages interaction.
Just talking about popcorn is making me want to make a big batch and share it with my friends.
Well, I wouldn't blame you, but before you do, I want to leave you with one final thought. Popcorn, for all its simplicity, is a testament to human ingenuity and creativity. We took a tiny kernel and turned it into something delicious, something meaningful, something that brings us joy. It's a reminder that even the simplest things can have a profound impact on our lives.
I love that. It really puts things into perspective. So, to all our listeners out there, the next time you're enjoying a bowl of popcorn, take a moment to appreciate it. Think about its journey, the science behind it, the history, the fact that it's been bringing people together for thousands of years. It's more than just a snack. It's a symbol of connection, of shared experiences, and of the simple pleasures in life.
Absolutely. And remember, stay curious because even in something as familiar as popcorn, there are always new things to discover.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of popcorn. Until next time, keep popping and keep exploring.